News Radio 710 Keel is your news and weather station.
Louisiana State Treasurer John Kennedy. Good morning, Mr. John. How have you been? Welcome back.
Thank you, guys. I've been well.
Let us start with the headline from your recent column in the Shreveport Times. Federal government fails Caddo Bossier citizens. What did you mean by that? Tell us about the column. Tell us what you meant.
I was talking, of course, about the Red River flooding. Our local government officials did a terrific job. Our mayors, our sheriffs. I mean, I want to thank all of them. They just did an extraordinary job in terms of reacting to the flooding. I wish I could say the same thing about the federal government and the state, but unfortunately I can't.
Well, let's start more locally. Let's start with the state specifically, I guess, the governor's office of blah, 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 and emergency preparedness. You're not happy with them.
Well, the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, we call it GOSHEP. We created them years ago, beefed them up after the first hurricane. They've got a $1.3 billion budget. Their job is to lead. They're supposed to be the quarterback. The problem is that they took their plays unequivocally and unconditionally, without questioning, from the federal government. Look, we were getting the information from the feds about the crest. The feds changed their predictions 7 times in 2 weeks. They started at 31 feet and ended at 37 feet. They clearly didn't have a handle on this. And GOSHEP, which is supposed to be the quarterback, that's the state agency, instead of saying, look, after the third time that the feds missed the prediction, GOSHEP should have said, look, we're supposed to be leading here. We're just going to prepare for the absolutely worst-case scenario and then add 5 feet to it, instead of just waiting on the feds to tell us what to do. I mean, that's why we beefed up GOSEP after the storms. They've got like 400 employees and a $1.3 billion budget comprised of taxpayer dollars.
We got to ask you this, Mr. Kennedy, because people are really ticked off in our community because individual relief has been denied. Why? What? I mean, we're gonna pay the government back for the monies they spent, but the individual Joe Q. public is not going to get federal help. What's going on?
Well, I'm very disappointed in that, and I haven't given up. I mean, that's we have to look to our congressional delegation to help us there. And I know Senator Cassidy's working hard, but I mean, I think that would be a question to ask Congressman Fleming. I mean, I'm appalled. I saw the damage. I spent 2 days in Caddo and Bossier parishes. I mean, it is devastating. And it's not just the homes that were lost, as bad as those were and are, the cars, the crop damage, the cattle lost.
If this was California, the government would be writing checks to people.
Well, they'd be all over it. And that's why we pay federal taxes and have a federal disaster declaration provision in the law, so when these things happen, people get help. We're not asking for a handout. This is money that we sent to Washington. When other states have natural disasters, they get some of our money to help them, and we're gladly going to give it to them. But this is our turn, and I'm frankly I'm very disappointed in our congressman, Congressman Fleming. I just think he ought to go there if he's got to go. Camp out on the door of the White House and say, now look, we've had some serious damage down here, and it's not just the homes were terrible. But it's not just the homes. You know, I've heard some people comment, well, it wasn't that many homes. Well, one is too many, and it's not just the homes. It's the cars. It's the lost productivity. People couldn't get to work. It's the cattle. The crop loss is devastating. And I'm not asking for a handout. I'll put my small government credentials up against anyone's, but we pay federal taxes to go into a pool to help people all across America with natural disasters. And we in Louisiana are glad to contribute our hard-earned dollars to do that. We're all Americans. But now it's our turn. And, when we get hit by a hurricane in South Louisiana, we get help. When we get hit by river flooding, which is just devastating, just as devastating in North Louisiana. We deserve help too, and I'm disappointed.
Mr. John, I had asked both Senators Cassidy and Vitter this specific question, and they kind of they sort of hedged on an answer. Is the reason for the sluggish federal response in this case? Do you think it might be in some way political?
I hope not. I mean, I'm not naive. It could be, but I hope not, because that's just not right. This damage wasn't partisan. The water didn't help. It didn't pick between Republicans and Democrats and independents. It was equal opportunity devastation. And if the federal government is playing politics, I don't want to believe they are, but if they are, shame on them. But that's why we need our congressmen to step up and say, look, come on down here, Mr. President. Come on down here, presidential age. Let us show you firsthand what happened. This hurt a lot of people. And it could have been avoided. And frankly, I'm being critical of the state because that's my position is a state level position. But the federal government was as much as fault as anyone because they kept changing the crest. I mean, they kept saying, okay, prepare for 31 feet. No, 31.5. No, 33. And then we prepare for that, and then they say, no, 35. What the state should have done after the feds missed the third prediction is say, hey, no disrespect, but you guys obviously don't have a handle on this, so we're going to prepare for the worst-case scenario and then add 5 feet. And if we prepare for nothing, okay, we'll take the criticism. We were overly cautious. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. And our GOSEP people who were supposed to be in charge, the folks at the state level, dropped the ball here. So did the feds, quite frankly.
Thank you so much.
If it hadn't been for our local officials, I don't know what we would have done.
Thank you so much, John Kennedy. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.